Welcome to Just Once Crime Scene, the true crime stories. Let us start.
The Osage murder case, poison, jealousy, murder and ambition. The tale of how white settlers used fatal means to seize the wealth of the Osage people of Oklahoma in the early 20th century, misguided federal policies and fueled by the outsized desire of white settlers to profit from Native Americans' land wealth. Local greed resulted in the deaths of at least 60 wealthy Osage people and possibly many more. Here's what happened, why some are still left unsolved, and how the crime set the stage for modern law enforcement in the United States. The wealth of the Osage. The Osage Nation came into massive wealth after oil was discovered beneath its reservation in the 1890s, worth about $400 million annually in modern currency. By the 1920s, oil transformed the daily lives of the Osage people and turned them into what was then considered the richest nation on earth. At the time, prevalent attitudes held that Native Americans were naive, primitive, and in need of white oversight lest they squander their wealth. The government also historically considered Indian tribes to be dependent nations in need of federal protection, promoting laws designed to protect, not empower, Native people. A one-white woman married to an Osage man told a reporter how locals would openly scheme. A group of traders and lawyers sprung up who selected certain Indians as their prey. They owned all the officials. These men had an understanding with each other. They cold-bloodedly said, "You take so-and-so, so-and-so and so-and-so, and I'll take these." They selected Indians who had full head rights and large farms. The tribe's oil wealth attracted hordes of white, marriage-minded suitors. According to McAuliffe, single Osage women became objects of hot pursuit, prompting a flood of letters to the Osage Agency seeking oil-rich brides, sight unseen. C.T. Plimer of Joplin, Missouri wrote a typical missive. Want a good Indian girl for a wife? For every $5,000 she is worth, I will give you $25. If she is worth $25,000, you would get $125 if I got her. The oil leases paid the Osage Nation more than $30 million in 1923 alone, equivalent to more than $400 million today. The tribe distributed royalties equally among its few thousand enrolled members, whose shares were known as headrights. Since headrights couldn't be bought or sold, only inherited outsiders had to either marry into an Osage family or become a legal guardian. Intermarriage between white and Native people, unusual in a country where European settlers historically treated indigenous people with cruelty and prejudice, rose dramatically in northern Oklahoma. In May 1921, the bodies of Anna Brown and her cousin Charles Whitehorn were discovered on the same day in different parts of the county. 2 months later, Brown's mother, Lizzie Kyle, who had inherited headrights, was killed by poisoning. Then, Leetsy's nephew was killed in February 1923, and on March 10th, Leetsy's daughter, her son-in-law, and a domestic worker died in a mysterious explosion at their home. The deaths sparked panic throughout Osage County and became known as a reign of terror. Meanwhile, the massive wealth of the Carl family was inherited by the only survivors, Molly Carl, a full-blooded Osage who was Leetsy's last remaining daughter, and her white husband, Ernest Burkhart. The Kyles weren't the only Osage people who died around this time, all under suspicious circumstances that included suspected poisonings, supposed suicides, and even being thrown off a train. Between 1921 and 1925, At least 60 Osage people were murdered or disappeared. All possessed wealth due to their headrights, and the Osage Tribal Council suspected that a prominent local white cattleman, William K. Hale, might be to blame. In the early 1900s, death was all too common. In the Boone town of Fairfax on the Osage Reservation, Osage people were dying at alarming rates. The Osage Tribal Council suspected that Hale was responsible for many of the deaths. The Commissioner of Indian Affairs in the Department of the Interior sent, working for 2 years. The agents discovered a crime ring led by Hale, known in Osage County as the King of the Osage Hills. Hale and his nephews, Ernest and Byron Burkhart, had migrated from Texas to Osage County to find jobs in the oil fields. Once there, they discovered the immense wealth of members of the Osage Nation from royalties being paid from leases on oil-producing lands. Hale's goal was to gain the headrights and wealth of several tribe members, including his nephew's Osage wife, Molly Burkhart, the last survivor of her family. To gain part of the wealth, Hale persuaded Ernest to marry Molly Kyle, a full-blooded Osage. Hale arranged for the murders of Molly's sisters, her brother-in-law, her mother, and her cousin, Henry Roan, to cash in on the insurance policies and headrights of each family member. As the Boer investigation of the conspiracy expanded, other witnesses and participants were murdered. Molly and Ernest Burkhart inherited all of the headrights from her family. Investigators soon discovered that Molly was already being poisoned. The tribe had retained mineral rights to the land of their reservation. Each tribal member had what were known as headrights to the mineral rights on communal land. When valuable oil was found on their land and leases were sold for oil production, each member with headrights was paid a share of the lucrative annual royalties for leases by oil companies. By the 1920s, he had amassed substantial influence in the county when he ordered the contract killings of Osage woman Molly Kyle's family in a criminal conspiracy to gain control of their headrights. He was convicted in federal court for ordering the murder of Henry Roan in October 1929, sentenced to life in prison, and released on parole in July 1947. Hale died in Arizona in 1962. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. God bless.